Hi, welcome. I'm doing a live on what is the number one thing that turns men off about women. I did a poll on several of my platforms this past week, and I posted about this on my Instagram on a carousel post. I haven't posted it yet on TikTok, so I'm really curious to see if anybody here can guess what the number one thing is before I tell you about it. So I'm really curious about what you think. Let me know what your guess is. What is the number one thing that turns men off? I'll give you a little bit of a hint. When I did the polls, I came up with about 7 or 8 options. So the options are being ignorant, being argumentative, being entitled, being masculine, like a feminist, being disrespectful, lacking accountability. I feel like I'm missing something. Oh, trashy. So out of those options, did I say bad attitude? That was one of them too. So having a really bad attitude, being argumentative, entitled, lacking accountability, disrespectful, trashy, being ignorant or vapid, and being too masculine and like a feminist. So disrespect, we got to vote for disrespect. What else? We've got a few people on here. What do you vote for? Give me your votes. And I will say that it was a close poll. So people were like, these are overlapping, and like if you could rule out one, you might be able to rule out a bunch of them. So several people said, well, I wouldn't even, it's a deal breaker, like a non-starter, if she's masculine and like a feminist. So that would be like the most important one in a way, but at the same time, it's not a turnoff because it's just a non-starter. So some people thought it was that one. And then there were people that said entitlement. So a woman who is constantly like expecting the world from you. You have all these standards and expectations, but she is just let off scot-free to do whatever she wants. And also lacking accountability, right? So like she's not taking responsibility. She's not able to admit like when she's wrong. She hides her flaws and just thinks that she's God gift to the world. And that's not attractive for sure. But what I was actually quite surprised that nobody said anything about appearances. It was all about character. So people didn't say beauty, like she has to be, or in the opposite, the biggest turnoff would be like she's obese or she's ugly or anything like that. Nobody came up with those examples, but I think that's kind of a given, right? Like that's the obvious thing. And everybody is attracted to something different, but I think really out of shape and really unpleasant looking is an obvious thing. But above and beyond that, these are all really important characteristics that you need to be vetting for in a woman. So I'm really impressed with my audience that they're getting to the crux of what's important. She has to be extremely beautiful, but doesn't know it. So I have to remind her every day. And that humility is important, right? Like you want her to have an internalized confidence so that she is secure, but you don't want it to come across as like conceitedness and, she's got her nose up or whatever. That's not attractive. So I get what you're saying. The humility factor is so important. Someone who is graceful too, right? Like she doesn't need to take credit all the time. She's just got that own sort of internal locus of control. She's not seeking validation. I think that all speaks to that security and confidence inside that really makes a difference. So I'll go ahead and tell you. The number one answer is disrespectful. And that's actually my suggestion too, that the number one turnoff is disrespectful, that she's disrespectful, but that was literally the number one vote on several of my platforms. So I'm glad that y'all agree. And it's so important for women to understand this, that respect, if you look at it in the converse, respect is the thing that men need the most. Even more than love, right? Like if we think of love as like more of the feminine type of love, it's really that men like their love language is through respect. So in order for them to feel loved, they need to be respected. You need to admire them, and you need to like just appreciate their like authority, you know, like you're looking up at them with admiration, and you're enthusiastic about like appreciating them for what they bring to the table, and you're able to just listen to them, you know, and trust them. To communicate that to them is so, so important. So the opposite is going to be true, that the biggest turnoff is to feel that contempt from a woman, to feel like she's not honoring him. And that carries a lot of weight with men. And it also helps to reaffirm his own masculinity, right? Like if you are respectful to him, he's going to feel really good about himself. But if you are disrespectful and crass, and you're probably doing all the other things too, right? You've got a bad attitude, you're argumentative, and you're not taking accountability, you're doing a lot of blaming and shaming and complaining. And so that is going to really break down and erode a man's confidence, his sense of masculinity, and he's not going to desire you, and potentially he's probably going to break up with you, right? I mean, some people do get stuck in this state where they're just broken down by the woman, which is really sad to see, but eventually the relationship breaks up, and you know, you start over from scratch. But ultimately you're so much happier when a woman can bring her feminine self to the table, and she's able to open up to you and appreciate you and celebrate you and respect you. I mean, I think it's night and day. So I'm glad some of you are on the same page. Let's see. I'm not going to congratulate someone on the bare minimum. I don't know what that is. Men die for it, bound to be valuable. But respect is the bare minimum. Yep. Mental behavior is important. It can stress both of you out. I actually just posted on my Instagram just a static post, a quote that I tweeted, that women need leisure, and they need leisure and connection in order to nourish their mental health, where men need success and autonomy to nourish their mental health, right? And it's so important to recognize that we are different, right? Men and women are different, and that's okay. Like, we have a lot of similarities, but the things that make us different is what makes us indisposable to each other. So when it comes to, it's like, of course, we both want to be respected by each other, but the fact that the emphasis on respect is more that's what men look for, whereas the emphasis for women is on love, it's on connection, it's on, you know, feeling that those romantic and like affectionate demonstrations of romantic love, whereas men, they are not quite as fulfilled by that. Like, yes, they want to be, they want affection, they want to be desired, they want your enthusiasm, they want your eyes to light up when you see them, but it all stems from this tone of respect, right? And so for women, I think it's just they don't want to be disrespected in a sense that he's being deceitful or dishonest or disloyal or anything like that, or maybe he's being abusive. So it's more of like an extreme version that rules out a man in her life, whereas a man really needs a woman to allow him to be a man. And so he's going to be more happy and fulfilled if he's with a woman who appreciates his masculinity. Let's see if I caught any comments. I see Loki sent me a rose. Thank you, Loki. I appreciate that. And thank you, Mr. Silver Spoons. Best wishes. Please feel free to follow me if you're new here. Give me a like. I'm trying to get my first subscriber. I haven't got my first subscriber yet. I'm just starting to get into a rhythm of doing my lives, but I really want to be able to figure out some questions that I need to answer for you. I focus on polarity, complementarity, like vetting in particular. I have a vetting system where I teach people how to pick the right partners for them. So understanding what they're compatible with and how to basically be a more healthy, integrated individual. And that's one of the hardest parts, right? And the most important part is to get yourself in order to trust yourself. Because if you're vetting somebody for a relationship, for marriage, you have to trust your own judgment, right? So that is the most important piece, is just getting to a place where you are clear on what is good for you. And then you can go about vetting other people. So first, you've got to vet yourself in a way. So that is a lot of what I do. I'm a retired mental health professional, retired marriage and family therapist, and now I do coaching and consulting. I respect what you're saying, but abusive men are attracted to soft-spoken feminine women. I'm not invalidating that can happen, but that's not the majority of the incidents, right? The majority of people who are healthy are attracted to the opposite, right? So like a healthy man is attracted to a feminine woman, and a feminine woman is attracted to a healthy masculine man. They're not seeking to abuse or take advantage of each other. But of course, there are going to be abusive people out there, both in the men and in the women. So it goes both ways, but you have to take ownership of that and make sure that you are taking care of yourself, clarifying your boundaries, your needs, and making sure that you're not tolerating any kind of abusive behavior. Being feminine is not like a bad thing for a woman. It doesn't make you a victim. You can be feminine and still have healthy boundaries, be self-aware and assertive, and clarify your needs and what your values are. Those things are not mutually exclusive. So vulnerability is a wonderful, beautiful thing, but you can't be vulnerable with people who are going to misuse you. So you got to learn how to vet for the right people. That's the whole point of what I'm saying. So vulnerability is your biggest, best asset out there in the world, with men especially, you know, but just as a woman, like, our vulnerability is our gift. Like, if we do not make peace and accept and celebrate our vulnerability and see the strength in it and don't see it as a weakness, then we're not healthy as women. And until we can integrate in that way, we've got a lot of work to do. So being ashamed and afraid of your vulnerability is going to keep you away from having a healthy, happy relationship, because that's when you're really like flourishing, when you're at your best and most beautiful, is when you're able to be vulnerable and not put yourself at risk. So I would encourage you to not be afraid of that and to learn how to open up. And like I said, leisure and connection is how women nourish their mental health the best. So that means getting into a place where you can stop striving so much, stop doing so much, and just be, relaxed and calm. And, it's okay to just, it's not about being lazy, right? But you're still going to be productive, you're going to be practical, you're going to get things done, you're going to have a purpose. But you have to allow yourself the space to just be, and the time and opportunity to just relax and enjoy the comfort of whatever it is that you enjoy. If it's like taking bubble baths, or like me, like going for a walk, a leisurely stroll. It could be reading a book, having a cup of tea or coffee, and just relaxing to music, doing your cosmetic stuff, right? Like, I love to put my eye masks on and whatever, and just stopping work for an hour and letting myself just relax. Being able to have that time is so important, especially for women. But we have to prioritize it. It doesn't just happen, right? Especially the busier we are, the more things we have going in our lives. It has to be intentional. So I'm just really encouraging women that it's not a luxury. It's very important for our entire health, like our reproductive health, the way that our body works. We do not function well under stress. So more so than men. Like, men can handle a little bit more stress than us. Neither of us should have a lot of stress, but ultimately women do not fare well under a lot of cortisol. And so we need to make sure that we're regulating our system so that we're not spiking our cortisol. And that happens a lot because we're the more emotional creatures, right? So with that fluctuation in mood should come more effort to stabilize it and create that relaxation and comfort and ease and leisure in our lives. So that's definitely my encouragement to the ladies. But son, I have been married for 41 years. It's been the greatest gift that God has given us. That's wonderful, Just Us system. 41 years, great. I respect what you're, oh yeah. So I'm not sure what Sunshine said. If I go back a little bit, maybe I can find. Life goal achieved. Check the goal and celebrate the moment. Let's see. Awesome. I had 5 roses from Loki Odin. That's wonderful. And I got my first subscriber. Excellent. I wrote this to take up space. Who's that? Chaos loves lust. I'm not sure. That handle has kind of got me worried. But it's such a beautiful day today. The sun is shining. It's actually cold. I was sitting at a bench and it was like in the shade and I got so cold. So I said I would go out in the sun. So sorry if it's kind of glaring at you, but it is a beautiful day. Any questions from anybody here? I know we have a few people still here. If you wanted to know a little bit more about what I do, specifically if you have like any kind of relationship questions, or I don't call it dating, I call it vetting. So I try to tell people stop dating and start vetting, because it's a healthier way of approaching getting into relationships, getting to know people slowly, taking your time, doing your due diligence, and making sure that you are compatible first before you jump in, not following your feelings and getting ahead of yourself. It's so easy to do that, but you need to have that self-discipline and control so that you only escalate the relationship sexually or emotionally after you clarify some very important things. So if you're curious about what my vetting system is based on, I have a formula that might be helpful for you. So the formula is, it's got 3 factors in this formula. It's logic plus desire plus love equals an ideal relationship. So a lot of people have problems with the logic part, right? It's easier, the 2 feelings factors, right? The 2 feelings are desire and love. And they're very, very powerful, right? So people jump into relationships based on really high levels of love and desire, but they have very low levels of logic, usually. And so logic is like the shared values, the shared lifestyles, the life vision, the goals, all the compatibility factors. That's where people are usually lacking. And trying to stay objective when you're sort of indulging in the lust and the desire and the romance and the butterflies and all your hormones going all over the place, that can be very difficult, but you need to start practicing that, because a lot of people just don't know how to self-regulate. And it goes back to that, like really learning how to regulate your emotions, like identify your emotions and then learn how to process them without letting them control your behavior. So it's really more about behavioral control and being intentional with your choices and not letting feelings, whether they're emotional feelings or like physical sensations, like feelings in your body, lust more likely, not letting them overrun you and take control and make you act out, right? Like you need to choose wisely what you do in the beginning of a relationship as it's, coming to fruition, knowing when you want to initiate sexual activity, when you want to be exclusive, when you want to commit to each other, because all of that is emotional investment. And if you're attaching yourself to someone who's not healthy for you, then that's going to be a lot of time and energy that you're going to have to spend on sorting through all of the sort of baggage that it will bring into your life, right? Like it's not just the time that you're in the relationship, but it's the time that it takes to deal with the breakup and then whatever impact it had on you. And then it's going to taint, things going forward on what you do with the next person. So it's just a whole lot of sunken costs if you attach to the wrong person. So you might as well go very slowly in the beginning and it will pay off, because once you make those decisions to escalate to the, getting more involved with someone, then your likelihood of making a mistake goes down. So you have to see these things as an investment that you're consciously making, and making sure, again, that you do your due diligence. Now, my vetting system doesn't have like a whole bunch of rules like some people. I know a lot of people have, like, dating coaches will have like specific rules. And although I have like this sort of, loose guidelines, like it's something that allows you to be more intentional, it's still very flexible and more process oriented. So there's no specific set time that it needs to be. I would say there's a loose timeline, right? Like you want to have the first 3 months should be just getting to know each other. There shouldn't be any sort of pressure to jump into exclusivity or anything. But then once you are, okay, this is the big difference between my vetting system and other people. Like I don't call myself a dating coach because like I said, I don't talk about dating, I talk about vetting. So the way that I approach it is you want to get to know people when you're single and you're just, human to human, you're just a single person and you're friendly and you're social and you're getting to know people. But then as you start to get to know people and you realize who you're interested in, it becomes more of a burden to talk to other people when you're interested in a particular person. I don't know if you've experienced that. Correct me if I'm wrong in your experience, but to me, it becomes very forced when you have to go out on dates with someone you're not really interested in, right? When you're thinking about somebody else. So it's disingenuous. So once you have a particular person that you are thinking about, that you're truly, genuinely interested in, you're still single, but the difference is at this point, you're going to be more intentional about this is the direction of where I'm going to be focusing my energy and intentions. And if you're a guy, that's the woman that you want to pursue. And so you shouldn't artificially create like options to try to protect your attachment. All you have to do is be very self-aware and intentional about not attaching prematurely. But the problem is a lot of people don't trust themselves in order to do that. So they create this sort of false, alternatives, like these options to confuse them, basically. It's like to overstimulate their system so that they don't attach to one person, which is a really weak strategy, ultimately. So instead, once you know who you truly like, then you narrow your focus and you start to date that person more one-on-one in intimate settings in an exclusive way. Now, it doesn't mean you're necessarily having sex. That's up to you. If you're okay with having sex, then you're exclusive when you're having sex, or you're just exclusively going out on dates with one particular person after you've already been single and you got to know people and none of those people lit you up. None of those people had your interest. And so now you're in an exclusive scenario where you're only going out on dates with one person until you determine, you're vetting them to see if you want to escalate to a true serious relationship. So they might go hand in hand, but not necessarily. You can be exclusive with someone, but not in a seriously committed relationship. And that doesn't mean you're trying to buy time or avoid labels. It just means that you're two mature, healthy adults that don't want to rush the process. So you're taking your time and doing your due diligence to get to know someone at a deeper level. But you don't feel the need to just gallivant around with other people because that's, like I said, it's disingenuous and it's a waste of time. But ultimately, it seems to be really awkward. Like if you care about someone and you're off and doing things with somebody else, that just doesn't sit right with me or the people that I work with. So if you agree with that, then I might be, a really great content creator for you to follow because you'll see my values infused in my approach and my content. So then it might take like 6 months in order to really solidify a relationship, and then it grows to like a year, and then I say you should not get engaged for a minimum of 2 years. So you have to make sure that you've crossed all your T's, dotted all your I's, and you know exactly how this person is going to show up under stress and how you work together as a team before you propose. Because marriage doesn't change those things. Like marriage is just going to, it's going to lock you in to someone and all their baggage and all their stress languages, which is a term that I use, like how they show up under stress. So if you're not sure like how they're going to show up at their worst, don't get married yet. So it's not about necessarily the quantity of time before like that you date or whatever, but it's the quality of time. What do you experience together that is so important? I'm going to stay single. What is it? Mercedramic? Well, you can stay single if you want to. That's your choice. But don't do it because you're afraid of connection. Because all relationships, there's going to be an element of vulnerability and taking risks. But if you trust yourself well enough, like what I was saying, then you're going to be able to choose well for yourself. Sometimes it takes a little bit of practice, right? But you have to get out there and you have to just enjoy it. Enjoy the process of getting to know people. Don't invest. Don't make big risks, right? Don't get attached too early, but just have fun getting to know people. It doesn't even have to be in a romantic setting. It could just be being friendly and social and getting to know old people, going out there and talking to strangers. And don't let it be about dating. Just enjoy life. If you can really get to a point where you live a fulfilled life, where you are feeling confident and successful and healthy, then it's inevitable that you're going to attract a wonderful person. But then you just have to make sure that you are receptive to that, because you need to take charge in that sense. Like, it's important for you as the man to pursue a healthy woman. You can't sit back and wait for her to make all the moves, right? She's going to give you signals and she should make it clear that she's interested in you in her way. But you also need to then make the move and put that into action. So I encourage you, don't rule it out. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I really appreciate you, and I hope to see you around on my page. Comment on some of my recent posts. I've gotten a few really good reach, some like 20-something thousand views on a few of my recent TikToks, and I'd love to hear what you think about them. So engage. And if you want my free vetting guide, I'm just remembering, if you want to get my free vetting guide, it's a 20-page PDF document. All you have to do is DM me the word vetting. So not comment, but DM me vetting, and I'll send you a little message that has a link to download my free vetting guide. So that's a good overview of my system, and you can see if it's helpful for you or not. No big deal. And yeah, I hope you enjoy it. So anybody here gonna do that? Anybody here gonna DM me and ask for just DM me vetting and get my download my free vetting guide? You can give me a thumbs up, or keep liking the video. That's cool. I appreciate you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. NASA, yes, absolutely. Get that free vetting guide. It's awesome. You'll like it. I do have it on Twitter. So it's in my bio on Twitter, and it's also in the link in bio. If you go there, you'll see a drop-down menu, and it's on there. So definitely something that I'm trying to get out to people so that you can start to, stop dating and start vetting. So remember that. I hope to see you all again soon. Have a happy Wednesday. You're welcome. Ciao.